What does my lovely wife do every day as a specialty of treatment? We're about to see.
Let's get started with the Alpha and Omega Health Podcast with Doctors Rachel and Tri Myers. This week, it's all about the Alpha in the Alpha and Omega Health Podcast. So let's dive into Atlas Orthogonal and what that means and what they do at Ammons Chiropractic.
So, what type of care do you do? I mean, I know you don't do the glorious, snap, crackle, pop is what the layman people say. So, what do you do?
I work with Atlas Orthogonal. We specialize in Atlas Orthogonal, which basically means what we're looking for. Actually, I have my book right here. I can kind of show you this picture. You can see right there. It's talking about basically having 90-degree angles. So we do these specialized x-rays so that we can make sure that the skull and the cervical spine or the neck are completely orthogonal, so 90 degrees. And so we get measurements. This is like super technical, but X, Y, and Z vectors, if we go back to whatever math that was. And that way we know how to get your atlas exactly where it needs to be. The atlas is the first bone in the neck. Did you know that? It holds your big noggin. Name. It is our dog's name.
I wonder who named that.
But it helps to hold your skull. And it's really important because that's where your brain stem is. And all of your nerves are flowing down from the very top. So everything, even down into that lower back, is starting up here. So if we misalign the atlas, you can affect even down into the lower back.
So the atlas, is that kind of like that statue guy holding the world or whatever?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool.
So our world, where our body functions, is our brain. And so this is our world, that little teeny tiny bone. I have a little thing over there, but it's a very, very small bone, and it's holding up our world.
Our world?
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you adjust that thing then?
So I use an instrument that is right over here. We put the different angles, so the X, Y, and Z angles, so that I can get that atlas exactly where it needs to be. And you just kind of place your head on the cushion, and it is not soft. It is kind of hard.
Is that for a reason?
Yes, it basically blocks the skull, so there's no other movement but the atlas that is moving. And what's really cool, this is kind of geeky, but that particular joint, it's a synovial joint, and that basically means that it's as slick as ice. And so when you get an adjustment with this instrument, it doesn't, you don't feel anything. It's a percussive instrument. And so because it's such a slick joint, you just need just very little pressure to even get that to move. So very cool.
I imagine people complain that thing hurts, doesn't it? Like the pad?
Oh yeah. That's why I always try to let people know before they ever even put their head on it. Hey, I know this isn't comfortable. I'm going to get you adjusted and you'll be up real fast. And then they hop up and they're like, did that do anything?
Okay. So, I mean, that makes sense, but what is a percussive instrument? Like, what does that mean?
So,
I like to use my hands.
Yeah. Well, what do you do with your hands? If we look at the instrument, there's something called I think it's a solenoid, and basically it creates wavelength frequency that actually moves the atlas into place. So you don't actually even have to feel like this massive adjustment. It's teeny tiny. Right into place. It's amazing.
So how do you know like all your X, Y, and Z vectors and everything? Like how does the machine know that?
There are protractors on the machine that we can actually move that to get the
based
right
on their atlas findings from the
X-rays?
X-rays?
Based on the X-rays, yeah.
Gotcha. That's cool.
Yeah.
So why does it need to be so precise?
Because the misalignments that we get in our atlas are as unique as a fingerprint. I don't know that I've ever adjusted somebody with the exact same vectors. It's, we're not made out of cookie cutters where everyone has differences in their skulls and bones and stuff. And so that's why you need to learn this amazing technique so you can get that
Maybe.
head on straight.
Maybe.
Well, that takes care of the atlas and the skull. What about the rest of the body?
I use this what was it? Star Trek gun.
Yeah, it looks like the phasers to stun kind of a thing.
Anyway, this is called an activator. And just like with the AO instrument, this moves the bone faster than we can with our hands. The crazy Canadians
Debatable.
actually did some research on the activator.
I'm sure Canadians are reliable.
Yes, crazy. They actually allowed
You're from
people.
Texas, though.
Anyway, they allowed people to have like probes put into their spine and would measure the distance that the bone moved and how much poundage the spine was getting from a manual adjustment, such as yourself, and an activator adjustment with this little guy. And it actually moved the bone faster with further with an activator. Obviously, you would have more force behind it than this, but this actually moved it. I mean, it was like maybe 0.0 something more, but it did move it. And what's so cool, and probably why it's able to happen that way with such little force, is that we're able to target specifically just one vertebra to get that to move.
I mean, people ask me questions all the time because they know my wife is a different style of technique. So they're like, hey, I don't know, what does that little clicky gun do? Da, da, da. I didn't feel anything sometimes. And I'm like, well, it's actually the most researched chiropractic technique there is.
Yeah.
Just because you don't really feel it doesn't mean it's not doing anything. And so I defend you every now and then that even though it wasn't my style, I enjoy what I do. I was like, it works and there's science behind it.
So, we're talking about my technique and how amazing it is, but like I was saying before, I started going to a manual chiropractor when I was 12. That's how I became a chiropractor, because I've experienced that miracle. So I'm really excited because we'll definitely be talking more about your technique and, how it started, who started it, why do you want to do it? We'll be comparing those.
So since this technique is drastically less force than, say, mine, even though I still adjust babies and old people, etc., tell me a little bit more about the age ranges, I guess, for especially Atlas. I mean, not the Atlas orthogonal, the Activator.
I mean, we can adjust any age of person. You said Atlas, but I would like to say, like, with the Atlas orthogonal technique, I'm not obviously going to put a baby's head on that and lock this tool, that has that stylus just pressing in there, but we are able to use the activator to actually get bones to move on all ages of people. I mean, the youngest I've adjusted in here was 9 days old, and the oldest that I can think of was in their 90s. So depending on how long the person had been under chiropractic care, they might not have a ton of bones that are able to move, but we're still able to get motion, which is the key with chiropractic. We want to make sure that there's motion in the spine. Yeah. So
I guess speaking of that, like if an area is fused due to like a surgical issue or just severe degeneration, can you still get adjusted? I mean, it's a question that people ask me all the time.
Yeah. And so like this would essentially be like a natural fusion, right? But you still have other bones above and below that could look like this. Because this kind of stuff isn't age related. It has everything to do with how long did you have that misalignment there. And so I don't care if someone has a surgical fusion or not. If it's a natural fusion, we can still get motion in the spine in all those other areas because it isn't age related.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like the dental field has really done a great job of educating people about maintenance and coming in to get their stuff done and if it doesn't, it progresses to a problem. Like you would go to a dentist and be like, oh, I got a baby cavity. I'm like, don't worry about it. I'll wait till it hurts before I get it fixed. Like, no, like you typically get it fixed then, and then they drill you about brushing your teeth and flossing, etc. So that's kind of what happens here is changing the body to go into the position that you want it to be. You're trying to retrain it. think of it kind of like your orthodontist, like you go in there for the braces, like it takes time and repetition for that stuff to get into proper alignment. And then when you get the braces off, like as we know as adults, like you don't wear your retainer, and guess what? It slowly goes back to where it wants to be. So that's why we do the retraining, the wellness aspect of chiropractic, of once you're done with the treatment plan to fix a problem, then you still do the things to hopefully maintain that issue.
Maintenance is the retainer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then also kind of like whenever we go back to this, like Rachel was really diving into the area that's locked up, like, oh, that should not have been there. It's not natural, because when we look at an x-ray, like it literally will look just like this. If it was truly age related, like everything would be like that. But it's like, here's your cavity for your spine, is there was a lack of motion there for so long. That's what happened to it. So that's why it's important, because a lot of times people are like, oh, I don't hurt. And you take an x-ray and like, dang, your spine is jacked. Like you should have been in here a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is how will someone know if they need to get adjusted?
They're alive.
I guess like
that's what I would say. I mean, they really and truly, you would agree, like as soon as a baby is born, they should be getting adjusted. How traumatic is a birth? I mean, I always think it's just so crazy. The doctor tells you, you know, make sure you're supporting the head and, you know, all that stuff. But what did the doctor just do to that baby? Pulled and yanked and twisted on the neck. And so you gotta start them off right.
Yeah.
Get them aligned. Because then how many times did you fall as a kid learning to walk? So many, right? And then you learn to ride a bicycle and do all these other things, and they kind of create these little micro traumas throughout your life, and you do nothing about it.
Yep.
Until it hurts. It's exactly like what Tri was saying. It literally is like waking up and your face is swollen and your tooth is hurting, and now you're gonna go and have the dentist do something, and you're gonna brush your teeth now. Like, no, you should have been brushing your teeth like way back when. And why would you wait until you have pain to do something for your teeth? You should be doing that all along. So it's all about prevention instead of waiting until you have pain. Pain is the last thing to show up.
So you don't need to be 30 years old to start brushing your teeth? So you always joke around like, we were like, hey, what condition do you think your teeth would be in if you didn't brush your teeth for 30 years?
Ew.
Yeah, they'd be like, okay, it's disgusting. So
don't
just
think I'd be kissing you.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have.
So young boys, you need to brush your teeth and get adjusted. Stand up straight. All right, so if you have any questions, give us a call, click the link below. We'd love to help you out. We can help you. Like, you just need to get your body checked out to see how bad it is sometimes, or just point you in the right direction.
Make sure you follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, Stitcher, and much more. Find it all at aohealthpodcast.com. That's aohealthpodcast.com.